Oh, thank God. I have no idea what was going on there. Sorry, everyone. Hello. Hope you're all having a lovely night. Oh my God. I've just had so many tech issues just right now in the last like hour. This is the new camera, guys. I don't know if you can tell. The quality is much different. It's not perfect colors at the minute or anything. Not even close actually. I probably need to sort that out in a second. But the quality is much better, and we're really getting there. So I'd like to make a big thank you to Ethan and all the other patrons on Patreon who are supporting this and have donated to help get this camera. And also thank you to everyone else who donated to get this camera. Really big thank you. Really appreciated. And obviously, Ethan, thank you again because you did donate like a considerable amount towards getting this camera. I did put some money of my own in, most of it, but obviously I think the quality is much better, and obviously as I get a nicer background, which is going to be happening very soon as well, it'll be a nicer quality stream for everyone. So yeah, even more beautiful than usual. One second, I'll just quickly sort this out actually because I've just realized it's unbelievably flat. So if I just quickly, whoa, that was too much. Okay, that'll probably do for now. Is that a bit, I think, is that too much? That's probably a bit too much, guys. Let's pull that saturation down. These are the things that I would have sorted out before the stream if I had managed to get any of this working. So yeah, bit red. Is it still a bit red? So close to 10k. I know. Finally, thank you everyone. 9k, man. 9,000 subs. How? Could I review Destiny's moral realism debate with T-Jump? Absolutely. I could definitely do that. Yeah, the background in the other videos is better. I'm going to be bringing the stuff in this room. This is a different room. I'm blushing. Probably. Oh my God. With how many tech issues? YouTube's blurrier, is it? Well, I've actually just upgraded my internet as well, so that'll hopefully stop the stream rate, like the bit rate dropping. Obviously, there's so many things that goes into this. Honestly, you take it for granted when you're watching the streamers, and they're all like everything's going great, and they're all having a great time. You don't realize they've spent the last well, I guess they don't actually have problems and sort all this shit out. They probably actually manage to live normal, functional lives and don't stress out over cameras and shit. But I do. I do. The Destiny T-Jump debate was painful to watch. I'll 100% check that out. So yeah, this is going to be a clean Q&A, guys. I've just realized I'm not looking at the multi-stream chat. I was on a YouTube. Sorry, everyone on Twitch. So this is going to be a clean Q&A. So yeah, actually, it's the chat box. Why isn't that even turning up, man? There we go. Oh, Unnatural Vegan didn't do another video on. Oh, don't make us. I'll put that on. That's because Twitch actually has a better codec for streaming or whatever as well. So Twitch actually does higher quality streams these days than YouTube. So yeah, blame YouTube. I can stream it. I think you can. They're like YouTube's like going like a different route in the codec way. Like where they're introducing like this whole new codec that's going to be coming out, which is even better or something. How many viewers are there on Twitch? I'm not actually sure how many viewers are on Twitch right now. Because like I just get the combined viewers come through, so you're all with us, you know. Oh my God, somebody else's stream. One viewer on Twitch. Hi, Twitch viewer. Give me a philosophical analysis of One Punch Man. I'd absolutely give you I'll 100% get into that. I love One Punch Man. Hello, hola, amigo. Unnatural vegan is a utilitarian welfarist garbage. You know, unnatural vegan is an unphilosophical idiot. Uh, um, no, I don't think she's that. Well, yeah, I don't know. She's not that bad. Like, I don't want to insult the lass herself. I just don't know how she makes these like really clear mistakes. Um, to be entirely honest with you, she makes some really bad mistakes. Um, she do got them titties, so oh bless. Well, you know, whatever, man. Second season was a bit flat. Yeah, the first season was absolutely based, though, man. Absolutely based. Hi, how was the process of recording your course? Any guess on when it'll be available? Should be available in a month. If there's any reason it's not going to be available, I'll let you all know. But I've actually just got in touch with an editor now. So this channel, this like is now going to have an editor. So this is going to be really exciting. And so yeah, like it's gonna be really good. We're gonna have an editor and stuff, so it's we're gonna have more content, a lot more content. Yeah, I'm recording a course. Recording a comprehensive introduction to Western philosophy, where I'm basically gonna take everyone who obviously enrolls in the course from classic metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, you know, ancient Greeks, all the way through to the contemporaries or like modernity and post-modernity. I mightn't have like the most up-to-date contemporaries in there, mainly because I spend most of my time in the Enlightenment. So I haven't really progressed through the last 200. Well, I have, but I mean, I'm Enlightenment, modernity, and post-modernity are probably my forte. And then I love the ancient Greeks as well. I'm a little bit. I could definitely do with spending more time on the medieval period, but I know enough to like obviously teach an introductory course, a bit of Thomas Aquinas, you know, a bit of Duns Scotus, um, and then with the contemporaries, obviously it depends on what like over like the modernity and post-modernity, but it depends on obviously what I'm doing. Like it'd be like either with metaphysics and stuff, I'm gonna probably I'll have more phenomenology in there with being a continental, but I'll also have some absurdism and existentialism, and I'll probably throw in some of the analytics for good measure. So I'll probably I was thinking having Wittgenstein just basically say metaphysics isn't a thing, um, and then maybe some what's he called? Maybe some Russell, and there was somebody else I was going to put in. Filthy analytic who's incredibly famous. Not Getty, not. Who is it? We'll have to wait and see. I'll have it all sorted. Where would I enroll in this? It's on Teachable. So if you check out the me YouTube description, because I can't really put it in the Twitch description, you'll see a link to the course, and right now it's 33% off. Yeah, I'm planning on previewing the course once it's up. I understand that like some people don't want to like obviously spend the £300+ until they've actually got like access to like some reviews from other people who've bought the course as well, which is absolutely cool. Yeah, I've got a link. One second. Do I respect destiny as a serious philosopher? I don't even respect myself as a serious philosopher. If that gives you any indication of what I would consider a serious philosopher, like if I would think of you're welcome by the way. I would think of a serious philosopher as someone who is, you know, a pro, teaching it either at university at least or engaged in like research. So professor. really is what I would consider a serious philosopher. I'd consider myself a philosopher. I just wouldn't consider myself a serious philosopher. Like, you can watch my stuff. I think I've got some pretty good takes on things. I've got a considerable amount of knowledge, and obviously I'm certainly capable of teaching something like an introductory course. At least I would argue. But when you talk about some of the knowledge of professors who've been doing this for 30, 40 years, like, I'm genuinely but a child. Would you consider those who study philosophy but aren't in academia? Well, yeah. I mean, you can be a serious philosopher even if you're just well versed. Like, you can be. It's just more of the fact that so Alistair McIntyre, absolutely. Like, you can be a philosopher that's not necessarily in academics. Like, and you get like theologians, especially in like that in like churches and stuff. And the way that it works is that you can learn it. It's more of like, as long as your work's being peer reviewed, and yeah, I'd say that's the real thing, like peer review. I think I'm very suspicious of anyone's work who isn't open to criticism. So yeah, do you teach seminars? I think I'm taking one seminar, like this like I think because I'm like I haven't committed myself like Dave. He's committed himself to loads of seminars recently. If you're watching this, Dave. But I'm taking one for him. I think I'm doing a seminar on existentialism and Hegel. Oh, it's Marty here. Marty, nice to see you, man. Oh, the sleeves. Yeah, like the. I think I need it finished. It's almost finished. Me tattoo artist did most of it for free. So like if you can see, you probably get to see the actual tattoos these days. That's Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, the Joker, Batman, almost. Oh my God, what's it? Scarecrow, and then Bane. Pepsi or Coke? Coke. Actually, Pepsi full sugar, Coke, like Coke Zero for so. DC comics are the best comics, by the way, everyone. I want everyone to know that. Stories as modeled, that's the best comics. The new Justice League, honestly, I'm still reeling over the last one. What are they doing? I was actually talking to the editor about this, and he was talking about the Is that a ginger on my left? No, it's Is that a what? Me left arm? Wait a minute. Is it inverted for you? So me right arm's the one with and it's poison ivy. Oh, you have a Batman sleeve for your leg, man. Good taste, solid taste. The new Batman movie looks cool. I haven't seen very much about that. I did think that from what I did see about it, what's he called, looked really good in the role. And I think actually probably fits his acting style. What's he called? Oh my God. Twilight Man. Actually, pretty good actor. I know, they need to bring Nolan back already. Well, Jack Snyder's cut may very well be 4 hours. I was talking to someone about Jack Snyder, and apparently he's like a full-on Randian. So, like, that's probably why, like, Batman's fucking murdering people and shit. You know? Like, Robert Pattinson, thank you very much. Do you plan on trying to get into writing philosophy books after your PhD? Absolutely, probably. I don't know. Like, yes, but I probably want to write one to laymen before I would write something to academics. Maybe. Like, I want to write like a solid, like, pick this book up and understand veganism would be a really good philosophy book that I'd like to write. Thoughts on David Hume? David Hume was a brilliant skeptic. His positive philosophy, not so great. Well, it's all right, actually. It's all right. But David Hume was a brilliant skeptic, and his influence on Western philosophy cannot be understated. Like on both like continental and analytic. How would you rate your debate with the fascist? Oh my god, like I don't know, man. Like so. I like to think that I took his arguments apart because, well, actually, his argument apart. I was talking to someone else with this. Like his argument was basically just scarcity is a thing, and so we should be fascist. Like resources are limited, so we should be fascist. And it's like, right, nothing. You haven't made a good like a single argument actually for fascism. You just pointed at history and then said fascism the entire time. So yeah, I think that he was really bad, if I'm honest. Have you got any tips for getting a master's in philosophy? I have an undergrad and I'm going later this year for mind or ethics. Don't know where to begin. Sovereign Snake. Thanks for the donation, man. Honestly, the want your money. There's one thing. So when you're applying, remember that if you're paying them, and then they want your money. If you're not, that's if you're taking a loan. If you're not taking a loan or if you're not paying yourself, then yeah, it becomes a lot harder because then you've got to compete for funding. In which case, I would say be cross-disciplinary cross-disciplinary endeavors usually get more funding. Check out get straight into check out what areas of where you can get funding for your university and also what charities are available in relation to funding certain masters and PhDs. Get in as soon as humanly possible would be what I would recommend, and then make something that's relevant and notable in the field and very relevant to the department that you're entering. So yeah, I guess that's all I can really say. Talk to the professors maybe in where you're planning on applying as well. That might be a good idea. But thank you for the donation, Sovereign Snake. $3 from Chippo. Where are you on elective abortion personhood? I think that abortion should be limited to a certain time period. I'm a sentientist, being a vegan, so I would say that there is a certain time frame from which we could consider abortion justifiable, unless there are mitigating medical circumstances or mitigating circumstances in relation to the well-being of the mother. In which case, it's the rule of double effect. But until the point of sentience, I don't have a problem with abortion beyond the point of moral hazard. In which case, it's whether the child could be, whether the fetus could develop into a child. A failed abortion would be the real risk, essentially. A failed abortion essentially could cause brain damage and other, medical issues to an individual who would have otherwise been born, able and normal and not in suffering. And that's really what matters. Even if someone was born disabled, that's not really an issue to abort them. And I think that needs to be instantiated more and more in society, where it feels that people think that any disability is a justifiable cause to abort a child. And I say child because after the point of sentience, that's what I would say it was. So if it's 26 weeks or 28 weeks or something like that, and then it's got a mild disability and you're planning on aborting it, and it's not going to suffer. I think that's the wrong choice, and that's bad.
Diabolical donated £10. This is my first ever stream donation. I ordered McIntyre's A Short History of Ethics based on your recommendation. Any other beginner recommendations? Also, any plans to upload shorter videos now that you have an editor?
Yeah, thank you very much, Diabolical. I really appreciate it. The thing is, the names, as soon as I heard Diabolical, I just think what is it? Was it Billy Butcher, from The Boys? Fucking diabolical. I can't do a good Cockney, but this is thank you very much for your donation. I really appreciate it, man. And A Short History of Ethics, I hope you're enjoying it. Tell us what you think of it. Any other beginner recommendations? It depends on if it's just for ethics. I have some reader's guides that I would recommend in relation to ethics, depending on the thinker. So let us know specifically what you're after. I'm trying to think of something more general. Also, philosophy, the classic readings. If I haven't mentioned that before, that is like the most useful thing ever for everyone ever in philosophy. It's just a big book of like all philosophy for the last 3,000 years. I recommend that everyone who's interested in philosophy, like absolutely. So philosophy, the classic readings, because it's just so generalized and so all encompassing. And it does some really good takes, and it's really well referenced. So if you did want any other specific learners guides and stuff, it references some of them in the book itself, so you can pick that up, and then it'll tell you where it got its information, and it's another like reader's guide specifically on the topic of that thinker, so then that it can point you in the right direction. And then Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the SEP, is really great, free resource. If you have a question that you want to understand, break it down and just Google it, and SEP should come up. Just even whatever it is, SEP or Stanford, and then you'll get a really good breakdown, hopefully. Also, any plans on uploading shorter videos now that I have an editor? Absolutely, that is the plan. And obviously, they'll have segment videos from the larger streams, and smaller videos like in relation to like actually like edited videos that he's doing. And so yeah. Better philosophy. We should do the philosophy survey questions together. Oh yeah, what are they, man? Is it ever too late to become a recognized philosopher? No, nah, man, nah. I don't think so. Not at all. Um, like as long as you write something that's of quality and get published, you can get recognized, no problem. And then obviously with YouTube and other platforms, that would recommend that as a way to get your resources out there. Oh, sorry, Donald. I just realized. Donald, you donated and you said, why didn't you move to Ecuador instead of getting yourself a tattoo? I guess I should probably ask myself that question every day. But on the same time, it's I couldn't have moved anyway. But I got most of these actually for free. It was like portfolio work for him. So he was like, he did like all his Passovers for free anyway. And he's went over them loads. And he charged ridiculously low rates. He's like a really nice guy. Lee, if you're watching this, thank you very much. I love me tattoos. Thank you. Matt Allen has donated $5. Have you read A History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell? Thoughts on Bertrand Russell as a philosopher / logician? Honestly, I hate Russell, but at the same time, he's not that bad. I think I hate him because in The History of Western Philosophy, he basically says that everything that he disagrees with pretty much everything Hegel says. And I think that's probably why I disagree with pretty much everything he says. Like almost every take he has is usually a one that I wouldn't have. So I was about a 30-second delay. All right. Sorry about that. But I haven't read the entirety of History of Western Philosophy. I think that as a philosopher, he's capable, wrong most of the time in a lot of things, but then has some pretty interesting takes on other stuff. So, for example, his take on Parmenides, I really like. His point about Parmenides' argument not being necessarily a metaphysical argument in terms of, but rather being a modal argument in terms of how logic and reasoning must function. That was really interesting. So yeah, I think that he's a capable guy. Not for me, but yeah. $1 million question: how based is Ayn Rand? Not based. Well, okay. After was it Virtue of Selfishness is like a decent essay, pretty good, nice and simple and clean. But everything else is trash. Everything else is really trash. Popper's critique of Hegel. I'm trying to remember what Popper actually said of Hegel. I think it was like really harsh from what I remember. But I remember like Popper's understanding of a lot of philosophers is really poor though. I don't know. In what circumstances do you believe that people should be able to access euthanasia? That's a question from Eugene Ritchie. So in what circumstances would it be okay? Would it be ethical for someone to access euthanasia? I would say that if the I actually answered this question in relation to someone else because I'm planning on debating. Oh, sorry, Marty. I just realized I have a message from you. Oh my god, that's a lot of questions. um, um, where is it? I just sent it. So okay, I said it should only be undertaken if and only if it could be rationally deduced that the ending one's life would produce a life narrative of a higher overall value. So, in other words, if you could say that the individual, in terms of how much positive and negative experience they've had, in terms of expressing their subjectivity, would have had expressed it to a greater degree if they had have died. So, like, they're going to suffer and be frustrated until death from this point. They should probably just be allowed to die. I would say like that would be overall better for them. I think there's societal things to consider, and then obviously there is the point of reason that I think is vitally important. Can we say that this person is rational, and can we say that the conclusion is rational as well? So that's in relation to, I would say that you need the like doctors. It has to be on consent, I would say, because it's something so vital to the individual. So I'd say the consent of the individual, the consent of the doctors in relation to being medically instantiating the necessity of it, and then to be entirely honest with you, I would say the engagement of someone like psychologists, psychiatrists, and even philosophers, because I think that psychologists and psychiatrists can give a good indication of whether the person is rational or not. A philosopher can give an indication of whether the thought process which is leading to the conclusion on all sides is rational or not. And I think that is I think that it's very much the case that philosophers aren't considered, like it could be a logician as well, just like a logician, someone who's like fun, like understands argumentation, and whether the argument's sound. But I think a philosopher would be best. I think that ultimately philosophers should be considered more important in the way in which we approach ethics, in the way in which we deal with reason in society. And I think that that's where I would say that would be nice. I don't know. But yeah, that's where I would say people should be able to access euthanasia, like debilitating health, illnesses that would lead to an overall greater amount of negative than positive in their lives. So yeah, and that won't be able to be overcome. Progress is a myth, bro. I don't believe that. You're gonna make some vegan guines. Vegan guines. It's me trying to do Dorian Raider. How does it? Ross. What, Ross? Vegan guines, man. God, I'm so glad Dorian Raider's just disappeared. I never see that guy anymore. He called us a disingenuous snake. Oh, he's just a little bitch. That's what I think Vorsh is. Like, Vorsh is just really sad because he sucks at philosophy. Sucks really bad. Okay? Really doesn't understand it. Makes terrible arguments that children can debunk. But, whatever, man. It's just the way it is, isn't it? I suppose like what I hate about it all is the rhetoric. It's like the need to be shown that, oh no, I wasn't wrong. This man is a disingenuous snake. Oh, I'm not like promoting something which can be used to justify literally anything in the world, including Nazism and the Holocaust. But in terms of trying to get away with not following my ethical conclusions or my ethics to that conclusion. No. This man's a disingenuous snake. It's like, all right, bollocks off. Like, you just like an awful human being. Like, I don't know why he needs to be like this. At the end of the day, his arguments suck. At least on veganism, like his arguments in terms of like socialism aren't bad, but he's just engaged in rhetoric. It's all about winning for him, and he said that time and time again. And I'm just sick of that shit. At the end of the day, it's just purely unphilosophical, and he's a celebrity. He's entertainment. He's nothing more. Yeah, I know he's not pursuing a PhD in philosophy, but he's established himself as a leader, as a left-wing leader. you know. And so when he makes for like, all he would have to say for me to be absolutely cool with him is just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm honestly like, I don't know enough about it. You think someone's trying to stir up drama? Well, fair enough. Like, at the same time, like, yeah, Foucault's a big foundation for sociologists. I expected that this is what I expected from Vosch, right? Was the sociology, right? Is usually very much heavily influenced by postmodern philosophy. Now, I love postmodern philosophy, like philosophers like Foucault, but only in the sense like Foucault's history, like philosophy of history, is beautiful. His take on like discipline and punishment is a great book. Madness and Civilization, absolutely excellent. His takes on metaphysics, no, trash, absolute trash. No, very bad. At least in my opinion. I don't know. I very much I think that the it leads them down to a way that and it just becomes all it becomes it's only justified because it's also romantically entangled, you know, within the language in continental philosophy, which is one of the things that like obviously the tradition gets criticized for, but it's the only way that I think that the build up this like, oh well, there is no such thing as reality, but there is aesthetics and appearances and they are unchanging, and I'm basically talking like Beauregard now. It's like, don't get me wrong, it's like I appreciate the work, and actually Beauregard is like a very different kind of philosopher, but I can't say his name. But he's like, the metaphysics I think is just badly established, if I'm honest. Oh, is Vegan Foot Soldier here? Where's my boy? Question, is Shellac we need to debate that. Oh yeah, we need to debate that. What are your thoughts on Christiva? I don't know what I don't know that person, man, or that philosophy. I'm sorry. Greek philosophers versus Roman philosophers. Greek philosophers. Don't you ask a silly question like that. I like a bit of Marcus Aurelius and a bit of Epictetus or something, but or like you know, maybe you know, would you count Plotinus? But like he was like Egyptian, wasn't he? But like he lived in Rome, so Greek though, just Greek philosophers, much better. I am going to be that asshole that asks about the morality of infant circumcision. Yeah, I think that it's probably a bad idea. I think that I think that it's really like superstitional takes that are placing like infants at genuine risk of harm, and I think that's a negative. I would say that it's a no from me. And so people have also said that it can lead to like desensitization and stuff, which is not nice. I think it's not as bad as female genital mutilation, like female circumcision, that which is absolutely barbaric. Like, oh my god, like who even, like, my god, that's disgusting. Like, it's the worst thing. But no, I think that circumcision's like, it's unnecessary. I mean, unless it is for a necessary medical purpose. I also think that the way in which the circumcision's done in the religions, like for example in Judaism, is also very dubious. It's not done by a medical professional; it's done by a rabbi. And then because it's done by, and then there's some of them still to this day put their mouths around the like the penis of the baby, which is weird as shit. But at the same time, apparently, the idea in the olden days was it actually helped prevent infection. So it was kind of a rational thing to do. But one of the like rabbis have come out and said, look, like we don't need to do this anymore. We can, you know, use antiseptics and stuff, which they dismiss because it's apparently you're not supposed to. But like some rabbis are saying, like, look, the only reason that would do, you know, put the mouths around like the penis in the first place is supposed to be to prevent infection. We can change the ritual to include like antiseptics and stuff. And so even just the way they do it is just a bit like weird. I think they definitely need to reform that. but it has to be internal. It's going to have to be like external critique can maybe point it out, but it's the only thing that's going to reform that institution is genuine like internal critique. I don't really have any hot takes on Neoplatonism, really. I don't think so. I haven't read The Gulf War Did Not Take Place by Baudrillard. Baudrillard. I can't say it. I'm going to give up. Any decent books which covers the views and positions of moral philosophy, ethics, and metaphysics, etc. Well, like as I said, like the classic readings is a really great one, like by Peter Fosel and David Cooper, Philosophy of the Classic Readings. But like I'll take you through everything. But like obviously there are specific views of moral philosophy, ethics, and metaphysics. But if you want a generalized like take of what will give you a good understanding of those books, check out that book. It's just great because it takes you from like it basically lists every philosopher for the last 3,000 years. So I don't know. I've used it so much that I genuinely I think it's great. Vor's take on rhetoric is valid. His problem was being uninformed and subsequently pigeonholed into misinformation by philosophy bros who don't use their terms ethically. No, bug nerd. No, that's not true. Like, his understanding of rhetoric is that of a sophist, and I mean that in a literal sense. His positions are actually like almost identical to the sophists, and the way in which he engages in philosophy is to show a contradiction and then ends the conversation. It's not about actually trying to understand the world and come up with arguments together that like maybe, resolve the critique in the first place, present a synthesis and understand reality a little bit more. No, it's a state of war, all too common, of course, but it's a state of war from which one person tries to triumph over the other without considering the individual's actual views. It's a game, and I think ultimately, Vosh's rhetoric is, I think it's bad. I think not in the sense that it's not strong. I mean, like, I think Vosh can make some pretty spicy arguments, and I think he can show people why they're wrong. But, like, he doesn't learn himself from any of his discussions. So, like, in his positions never really seem to change. And I think this is all too common online, especially. Thoughts on your boy Plato? Plato's great. Like, wrong in terms of the way I approach it. I much prefer Aristotle, but Plato was amazing as a philosopher. Like, genuinely amazing. Like, I learn from Plato all the time. Like, as soon as I pick up, if I pick up like something like Phaedo even, I'll pick that up and I'll be like, wow, this is great. Or like Gorgias, I talk about that all the time. I love Plato. Not a fan of his metaphysics all really, but yeah. They could use their saliva with no need to put it in their mouth. Well, maybe. I think that's probably a valid critique. I have no idea why this still goes on. I think that it's just a bit dated, I mean, like, I guess this is what happens when it's a fundamental religion from a long time ago. Oh, sorry, ma. I'm going to assume Lewis is uncut then. I never thought this would be happening on stream, if I'm honest. Take on anarcho-capitalism versus anarcho-communism. I think ANCAPs, are, I think, a little naive in terms of how they think monopolization will function under an anarchist system. Like, I think that I don't think they see the collectivization of wealth forming in a private sector, organically. I think Nozick shows it would quite well, or and basically implies that it would nicely, and then shows that basically we're going to need a small government even if we had an anarchy, and then I think in relation to that, I would say I would say that anarcho-communism, or like libertarian socialism, or anarcho-syndicalism and stuff like that. I think that it's trying to express freedom in a way that is more rational than anarcho-capitalism. I think they see freedom as being unrestricted rather than freedom as being the ability to um, express rational um, or rationally engage in a fair and equal way with others. And I think that, so in other words, I would say that anarcho-communism would maintain a certain livelihood and a certain necessary, capacities for an individual to enter the market, or necessary conditions for an individual to enter the market. And I think that's the main difference. It understands that the market itself, to function and allow for free trade, requires some restriction, and the individuals who enter the market require certain base needs fulfilled. Matt Allen donated $5. What are your feelings about the role of intuition in epistemology? Well, I don't really feel like, I don't think intuition should inform anything about knowledge, if I'm honest. I don't think you can get knowledge from intuition at all. But I think that intuition is basically raw data that, once made common, if you share intuitions, you can discuss them and talk about and then talk about the epistemological relevance in relation to, like, whether it's if whether you can use it to produce whether you can use it to uncover and engage something else in the world, and then engage in rational argumentation and investigation. But no, I think intuition in and of itself isn't capable of producing knowledge. But thank you, Matt Allen, for your donation. Where should I watch it? What should you get if you want to read Hegel one Audible credit? Singer's brief introduction to Hegel, I think, is on Audible. That's what I would recommend. Streamlabs not going through. Oh no, Donald, I just saw it. The tattoo Ecuador question was just a little throwback to the infamous carnival debate. Keep up the good work. Oh, the carnival debate. Oh my god, Carnival. Oh my god, he was such a fucking strange guy. Like, I don't know what's happened to the sound of this box, Alert parries? New alert. Oh my god, you like, slap each other's alerts away. What the hell's going on there? And make the donors fight each other. Okay, this might actually make it work. Perspective philosophy. You order vegan meat at a fast food chain, and they make a mistake to give you real meat. Is it immoral to consume? It'd be thrown away anyway if I'd refuse it anyway. I'd make them change it primarily for the fact that it would cost them money. And it disciplines them to stop to making that mistake. I think a lot of the issues is that people will, and I know this sounds like stupid, but like some people like really hate vegans, and they'll do it to you anyway. Actually had someone feed us meat, asked for veg chili, okay. Turns out they didn't have veg chili. What I've ordered every time, by the way, at Zapatista, this was in Newcastle, ordered it every time, and instead of veg chili, they gave us beef chili. No idea how they did that, especially after I said, like, after I made it unbelievably clear that I was vegan, give us beef chili. And then when I complained, I'll tell them about that one as well. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, so then when I complained and I wanted my money back, because I was like, well, I've just ate meat, like I feel genuinely disgusted, because it wasn't just that even beyond the ethical point, I was like having like physical aversion to it, and I still do. I don't think, like, after having been away from meat for so long, you start to get like a physical aversion to the idea of eating flesh. Like, it's just a corpse. Like, it makes us feel sick anyway. So, normally, if I hadn't have ate it, I'd have just accepted a replacement, but I wanted a refund. And what I get met with is a manager who's like unbelievably obnoxious, who's like basically like yelling and like saying like, why do you want they're like, oh, like, you're ridiculous, there's no such thing as veg chili and all that. And it's like, right, well, one, if I've said I'm vegan, then you don't feed us beef anyway. And then two, if I've asked for veg chili, you don't feed us beef then anyway. Even if there is no veg chili, you say there's no veg chili. And then three, I've ordered veg chili like 10 times and always got sweet potato chili. So, like, I don't know. And this is the kind of thing that you get met with. So, I would say, ultimately, send it back. You cost them money, which prevents them from making the mistake again. It disciplines them and makes them prevent from doing the mistake again. And then I would say as well, not indulging in it and accepting it is a solid place to go anyway. You don't want to propagate those desires within you, and you want to avoid them if possible from like a virtue ethical standpoint. So that would be like where I would recommend. And also if you consider it with your health as well, if that's a concern for you. But yeah, I wouldn't eat it. It's not like unethical, I don't think, to let's say let's say there was like no way to return something or whatever. I don't think it would be like unethical, but then you could give it away, you could give it to like homeless people and stuff, provide, like that kind of thing. It's entirely, obviously it depends upon what's the most good you can do in that scenario. Hegel does hold the secrets of the universe. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. And I didn't smack talk about Destiny to him, like to Vosh. All I said about Destiny in the Vosh stream is that he's a filthy capitalist liberal apologist, right? And that I'm not simping for him when I'm here to criticize you. And then went on to show that he was why he was inconsistent in his debate with Destiny, and that's all I did. So Vosh is just being a little bitch with that. He's a stirrer. He's basically trying to undermine my credibility because he knows how bad that debate went with him. Because that's why he didn't upload it, and that's why, like, if you go to the Vosh highlights channel, somebody else has uploaded, and the comments are, "Oh, Vosh got bodied in this debate," or "Vosh got yeeted," and like proper like loads of like comments just saying Vosh didn't do well in this debate because he was making arguments like, "Why aren't you homeless if you believe that socialists shouldn't own capital?" He made some ridiculous arguments in that debate, and it's all the coverage tracks for that. He knows that he should be vegan. So yeah, it's honestly he's just a rhetorician. I don't know what I'm supposed to say about that really, other than it's just disappointing. Oh, thanks, Jens. Really appreciate it. Hey, PP, new to philosophy. Any suggested references from metaethics regarding language and the implications of stories, essentially being lies with implied meaning that are mutually understood? I mean, that just really screams like Wittgenstein. It's not like it lies. What you're referencing what's called phenomenalism, right? So, if you... One sentence, so Stanford... Phenomenalism. Not phenomenology. I'm looking for phenomenalism. I'm not going to be able to find it, but essentially, Wittgenstein's probably your best bet. The philosophical investigations, the limits of our language is the limits of our world. Oh my god! I just clicked over to my Twitch stream and you can see you can see like my entire skin. That's weird. That's like every little feature of my skin. I need to clearly I need to sort that out. Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm actually going to have one of the patrons call in because um, essentially, if you're a patron and you're a silver souled citizen, a member of the Republic of that auxiliary class, you can call in and ask us some questions. So, um, Curlicue, if you're still around, cool. Curlicue, are you there? Oh, hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you.
nice to meet you.
How you doing?
Good, yeah. Um, I wanted to ask something for a while. It's related to what you were talking about earlier. It's this idea you've talked about when people like jeopardize their like long term interests in for like short term momentary impressions, or
Hmm.
what you call like first order desires over second order desires, whatever.
Yeah, like your
Um,
preferences over your interests, like sacrificing what's good for you, what's actually good for you for what feels good at like a single time, like in a moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And you've used cases like if like a drug addict, which is obvious, like they're harming themselves and
yeah.
people around them. Yeah, we should intervene. So if you have a more ambiguous case, let's say like a state wants to take people who are like very like sedentary, they want to take them to like a summer camp to socialize. Um, like if you take your view and just to its extreme with a lot of uncharitability, it could lead to like a philosopher king autarky. Um,
Well, I don't
so
think
what
so.
exactly?
I would
So
say
the
that
question
like
is,
sorry, sorry.
so the question is, what's like the how do you psychologically determine what's the process to actually give yourself the right to intervene in someone's life, like precisely?
Well, one, I would say that the expression of subjectivity is key. I don't think that you can intervene in someone's life necessarily and justify it. Like I wouldn't say that um so for example somebody like for example I drink now somebody may come to the conclusion I think they'll probably be very rational for doing so that drinking is not good for me but if someone walked into my house got the beers out the fridge and then smashed them and went it was for your own good I would probably be quite mad so
Yeah,
what it needs to be is when it comes to ethical progress and moral progress, you can't force moral progress. You need to rely upon the rationality of those individuals, like actually freely consenting to what is right for them. What you do is you engage people in ethical discourse. So if someone comes up to us and rather and goes like, Lewis, you can't drink. It's bad for you. It's like, and they present arguments and like, look, like your liver and stuff like that. Then I'm like, all right, actually, yeah, I shouldn't drink, and then stop. And that would be the rational thing to do. If I don't, then it would be irrational, and I could accept that. It's the same thing with it's the same thing with like obviously drug addiction. I think to a greater degree. I think like obviously I actually rarely drink, but like I think drug addicts, it's something that usually can lead to suffering and death like really quick, and loss of grip on reality. And there's an added caveat to it as well with the diminished capacity for reason. Once you engage in an addictive behavior, you lose the capacity for reason, which makes it harder for you to actually free yourself from fictions and free yourself from the fiction of the addiction in the first place. So I would say addiction is probably one of the points in which individuals can intervene on behalf of the individual because the rationality of the individual has been compromised. And so I think that's a very important aspect. If the rationality, like mental illness, addiction, those circumstances, that's when the state could intervene on your behalf. In terms of when in terms of otherwise, unless it's impeding upon the subjectivity of another. So, for example, like you're breaking into somebody else's house. You're let's say you're a pyromaniac or you're a kleptomaniac or something. Then I would say then it's you're putting other people at risk, and you're harming others, and then you need to someone needs to intervene then as well. And then I think the last thing I'd say is otherwise it has to be purely based on your free consent, and they should engage you on rational discourse and respect your autonomy and your subjectivity because that's what we're trying to express. So the reason why I would reject something like the philosopher king is precisely the reason why I would reject most of Platonic philosophy is because the only person that has subjectivity in Plato's Republic is Plato. Um, the entire state is built on the wishes and understanding of one person who is trying to enact their conception of good and their conception of what is right. And in doing so, even when they're trying to consider others, it's authoritarian and epistemologically flawed. Not only that, is even the philosopher kings, like the Guardian class, I would argue, because of the way that almost the constitutional way in which the Republic is being dreamed up and how it will function, being the product of Plato's mind, I would even see that they themselves, even being the ruling class, would be expressions of Plato's ideological hegemony, and so not actually have any subjectivity in and of themselves. And so when we're trying to express subjectivity to the greatest degree, we need the engagement of the individual subjectivity to the greatest degree within society, which is why I would argue for a democratic state and say that, look, unless the rationality of the individual is compromised, or unless it's impeding upon the safety and well-being of others, it's up to the individual to make their own decisions.
Okay, yeah, I get how the philosopher king case wouldn't really work. But even so, on the beer case, if I have like 5 beers a day, and we have I'm sober now, we have a rational engagement, and I just say that I'm happy to maybe sacrifice some friendships. I'm happy to lose my job and get another job, and it's just worth it overall. With like a holistic view of my whole life, I'm still deciding to rationally drink, even though there's some harm being done to myself. Like, how can you tell me? I guess this gets like a hard problem of consciousness issue.
Yeah,
But
I guess
how can you tell me that I'm wrong?
like the real issue would be, like, in terms of what, like, so for example, a lot of the times the reason people drink usually is to cope, which ultimately leads them like struggling more and more. So it can be a rational, like a self-defeating mechanism, and I think you could pull up the rationality that way. I think that overall, I think that you can make claims about an individual's nature, whether the drinking itself is beneficial for them, and then say, like, look, the friendship, the job, all of these things were beneficial to you. And if we look at the way that humans actually engage in reality, we can see that happiness of individuals is more common in this respect. And in terms of your overall, your dispositional states, unless they're an addict, we can we can just take their reports, and I think that's fine. Like, look, I prefer it this way. And you're like, fair enough, right? You know the risk reward ratio, you're willing to make that decision in your life. There we go.
Okay.
If because we're respecting their subjectivity overall, like their decision-making process. Now, if on the other hand they're addicted, they're incapable of making the decision, and we have to free them from the addiction before we can even get a rational conclusion from them. So ultimately, addiction needs to be destroyed in and of itself, I would say.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay, cool, that's all I got.
No, thank you. I hope I answered it to the
Yeah.
specifications that would at least allow us to, as someone said, like drinking after a debate a fascist or something. Does that count? Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Oh my god, never again. Like, but thanks, Kaliku. If you have any other
Yeah,
questions, just
thanks
let us
for the
know.
answer.
And if anyone else, Silver Soul said that, I know, Lazarus, Ethan, if you want to jump on as well. Anyone has any of you, any of the patrons from them higher tiers that want to ask a question in this Q&A, just jump in. You can call in. This is that's why you're a patron, man. Reap the rewards of your hard-earned actually, would it be hard-earned labor? I don't know. Hard-earned capital that you've spent. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks anyway, Curlicue, and take it easy. If you have
Thanks
anything
a
else
lot.
to add,
Thanks for the time. See ya.
yeah, take it
See
easy,
you.
man. God, I hope I'm saying your name right, by the way. I saw a video with Noam Chomsky where he discussed veganism thoughts, dismissed veganism thoughts. Well, I don't know. I've never seen it. Like, actually send us that, Kyle, please. I don't know what Noam Chomsky thinks about veganism. Like, I'll absolutely. Who wants to see me slap Noam Chomsky in a debate? No, I will reach out and see if I can get him on to talk about it though. But excuse me. But thank you for your donation. Really appreciate it. Democracy is evil. You're absolutely wrong. Vegan foot soldier. Animaniacs. Yeah, yeah, Plato was pro-eugenics. He was also like a proto-fascist. A lot of his ideas were very bad, but at the same time, he made some he brought up pretty much every problem in Western philosophy to date, and he also engaged, and he engaged in some really interesting points on metaphysics and epistemology and stuff. So yeah, he's got some good stuff, got some bad stuff, and his early stuff like the Socratic dialogues, or the early Socratic dialogues, which was most likely Socrates. They're brilliant pieces on ethics. How do we know that plants can't feel pain? I mean, we can't prove it without a shadow of a doubt. But in terms of sophistication, we believe that a brain and the neurological density of of a brain would be necessary for sentience in terms of materialism, and then in terms of like behavior and how we understand, where sentience comes from anyway, it relates back to certain behaviors. So it's just we have no evidence to say that plants are sentient. That would be more of the thing. It's not like we can't show that they're not, but there's no evidence to say that they are. Are we obligated to eradicate as much animal suffering as possible in wild nature beyond any human-caused harm? I'd say less so than the human-caused harm. I think that we'll have to focus on reducing or trespassing upon others' subjectivity before we focus on other instances of harm. But then, yeah, I'd say like if we became like a perfectly ethical society, and and especially if we had the technology, I'd say that genetically modifying nature may be beneficial, might be a good thing. And I had a conversation, if you're interested, with David Pierce, head of the Transhumanist Society, and he thinks that we should do that. And he, I actually thought I was going to go into the debate and be like, "Oh, this guy's crazy," this is ridiculous. And I ended up just coming out like, "Wow, that was some pretty good arguments actually." I mean, I don't know, I can't really criticize his science because I just don't know enough about it, but some pretty good arguments. Do you think that I don't, Sir Leopold? I think Singer is a utilitarian, and that's why he's making that position, which is funnily enough because it's exactly the opposite. Not to bitch about Vosh again, but Vosh talks about like, I don't think that we are morally obliged as a utilitarian to, like if your actions don't produce any negative utility, then they aren't bad. And it's like, no, actually utilitarians have the most staunch view ever on like how much good we can do in reality and what we should be doing. Like utilitarians usually have like this most unrealistic standards in the world where it's like abstract good, like as you say, like give away everything until you're just above the point of poverty. Unless you're going to make it become a problem yourself. So like in terms of being a utilitarian, he's a very bad one, if I'm honest. But like, yeah, like Peter Singer does argue that, but then he says that it's not likely that anyone would do it. He accepts that standards are useful and argues for a standard of everyone giving 10% of their wealth away, in order to, and then would only have to give 2% of their wealth away. I do think that we need to give more to charity. I do think that as Western societies, we have more responsibility because of the power we have. So yeah, I didn't get PTSD from the last debate, but I did get insight into just a little bit like seediness of them more than anything, of the fascists. Ugh. Thoughts on absurdism? What makes it different from regular nihilism? So like absurdism is more of like an acceptance. It's more of like an ethical take on nihilism. It's like we must accept the world as being absurd, in like a Camus kind of like we must imagine Sisyphus happy kind of thing, and it's more of like an engagement into aestheticism and appearances than nihilism, from what I'm aware. Colin Price, but thank you for your donation. I have a question. Why ought we do some things over other things? Fundamentally, what makes something good? Oh, that just disappeared. Sorry, man. Chomsky thinks veganism is irrational, really? Why? Does your core basis of your political thought stem from your own moral beliefs? And do you believe, and do you think, and do you relate with the line of existential thought that every person followed, it would be good and sustainable? I'm not sure if I understand that very well. I would say that my political views stem from my... I would say that my politics stems from my ethics, like anyone's good politics should, to be entirely honest with you. And I think Aristotle kind of showed that. But yeah, I would say that also, like... Yeah, absolutely. Sovereign Snake, follow-up question. Why do you say go to grad school as soon as possible? Oh, no. Sorry, I didn't mean to imply that, Sovereign Snake. I was saying that apply for the grants and stuff as soon as possible. Like, get your name forward for the scholarship kind of the programs. So like the charity ones, the ones in the universities, like round here we'll have like Northern Bridge and stuff. Put your name forward for those as soon as possible, because I've missed loads of deadlines in the past. Just get in straight away. Helps you out. But thank you for your donation, Sovereign Snake. Yeah, plants do attract animals to eat them as well, so that's kind of like a lot of it is like it's like trying to like the way in which that, but then that doesn't necessarily imply that they mightn't feel pain. It just seems like it would be a bit of poor design if they did. Do you believe that philosophy is the instigator of changes in popular perception, or arrives as a consequence of changes that have already occurring in somewhere in between? I think that it feeds from one to the other. I think that philosophy can be informed by other epistemic fields and can influence other epistemic fields. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Is it ethical to eat spherage? No, that would be absolute poison. My God, of course not. Ugh. Disgusting. Photosynthesize, bigot. How do we resolve issues of allocating labour to fields indeterminate in a socialist mode of production? Like as in, like, how do we allocate labour? I would say that like I would have it as a market, but in terms of, yeah, I would just have it as a market. Like I'm a market socialist. In terms of allocation of labour, I would say that free consent of the individual. Have you looked into Zizek, and if so, do you like him? I love Zizek. I love a bit of Zizek. Bit of that Slavoj. Absolutely. Oh, come on, PP. I've been asking for 30 minutes straight. It feels like you don't want to answer my question. John Doe, where is the question? Why didn't you type the question in, John Doe? I can't see it. Is it that one? Do you have any logical or moral or ethical arguments against...
Jacob_K donated £10. Hey PP, how do I avoid feeling guilt when realizing that there is always a more moral decision that I could make? From what degree I should get or what food I should eat to how much do I donate, the thought weighs on me. I always could do more.
Thank you very much, Jacob. I really appreciate the donation. Thank you. How do you... Well... Look, oh my God, like, if I'm honest, how do you free yourself of guilt? Right. So I'll get to your question in a second, John Doe. By the way, I saw it now. Um, okay. I would say that guilt itself isn't necessarily a rational. It's not something that you can kind of like think you like just feel your way out of. Like you it's something that you've kind of got to come to terms with, and perhaps at an underlying level you're applying standards which are unreasonable to yourself. I would say that the only standard that you have to meet is that moral standard which is institutionally understood, to be the standard, what is expected of you in society. As in like, so in the institutions of your society. So veganism now as a moral institution exists to say like, look, this is how we should not behave. But when it comes to abstract conceptions of right, so like, should I get an avocado or not, or an almond, without having any institutions which tell us that like you'd be better off not doing that, or like arguments about whether you should or shouldn't buy an iPhone and stuff like that. Like what markets should you engage in? Who should you support with your money? Because who funds like the Conservative Party and stuff like that? These are left up to the caprice of individuals, and so become irrational. They become they're irrational in the sense that they are reliant upon the reason of a single individual, and so cannot establish a sense of duty and obligation, especially since a lot of these claims require political engagement, and so the engagement of others in these fields is necessary for any real outcome. I would say follow your duties in terms of the duties that are established in society. The whole love thy neighbor thing's a good one. Pretty much a standard for our society. Do consider your actions. Maybe try to go beyond the consumer level if possible. I think consumerism's usually quite trash. Involve yourself in ethical institutions more than anything. Like philosophical communities and that are talking about ethics, even religious communities, like enlightened religious communities, that are discussing ethics and obligations to others. Veganism's a great place because of its vegan communities are great because of the way in which they engage around ethics. But don't go and force yourself to try and be abstractly moral, because one, you're going to lose motivation straight away. It's going to rip you apart. And it's not going to allow you to actually engage and express your subjectivity in the world. And two, so it won't be good in anyways. And two, engaging in institutions is more beneficial for the overall outcome anyway, because you influence more people, and your actions become political and not just individually ethical. And I would also say three, engaging in conceptions of abstract right, and understanding what is good without a language community and others to judge whether you are actually right or wrong on these things, ultimately is caprice. And so you very well, like most of us, I would say, come to conclusions a lot of the time that are actually false.
Jens donated £5.
Thank you for your donation.
I've exposed numerous friends to veganism and they seem to agree and understand the arguments. However, they reject the notion all the same, which I find somewhat disturbing. What do you think of this? Love from Norway.
Thank you very much, Jens. I think it's strange. I have a friend that says that he would go vegan. Like, he understands the arguments, says that he's interested, but then won't do it. I think a lot of it comes from social pressure, if I'm honest. I think social pressure and then individual desire. But I think the norms and conventions is a big thing. I feel like people are scared to be the one that puts their foot forward, and they want to be seen in a certain way. And our society's so unbelievably appearance-based, that that people forget that there's something more important than appearances, and that's like reality, like ethics. I find it disturbing too, but people also make mistakes. Be patient, be willing to hear them out, try and talk to them what's putting them off, and try and find out what's like where the lack of motivation's coming from. Is it because they're scared of losing their favorite foods? Is it because they're scared of appearances? Is it because they're scared of family expectations, religion, whatever it is. Talk to them and see if you can help alleviate it. And that would probably be my recommendation. John Doe. I don't have any arguments against eating lab-grown meat beyond the health of the consumer once it's it's like a permanent cell culture. When they don't necessarily need to do biopsies of animals and harm animals at all. If it was purely a cell culture that became it was all from from one animal who got biopsied and now they just produce meat. I would say that ultimately from this cell culture, in a lab, there's nothing really unethical about it beyond the health of the consumer, and the well-being of society, healthcare costs and so on like that. That'll be all, really. But then you make the same arguments about alcohol, smoking, that kind of thing. So it becomes that kind of issue, but not really not an issue with the logical component. I can't think of one that would just say eating meat is logically or ethically bad. There's nothing that genuinely entails the actual consumption of meat being bad. It's the production of meat requiring the suffering and death of others. So yeah, thank you for your question. No question, just wanted to say that you love Newcastle. That's a good shout, man. Hey, Newcastle. Thoughts on Hassan? I haven't watched that much Hassan, so I can't really say that much about him. I know he's on the Young Turks. Yeah, not something that I've really engaged much in. Buy iPhones and almonds secondhand. Definitely do not buy secondhand almonds. Do I know how bad tattoos look? I think it's preference, Ethan. I think it's preference. Do you believe that everyone has some understanding of philosophy? The more I learn, I feel like I need a PhD to understand anything. I don't know if it improved my life. I know those feels. No, I think that it can improve things. I think that a little bit of philosophy and critical thinking is probably your ally the most if you're not going to be engaged in deeper level philosophy. Just learn the way in which you approach topics in life. And then, maybe engage in ethics. I think ethics is probably the most useful of any of the fields in general. That and maybe some epistemology. But you don't need to go full on hunt PhD to find something useful. You don't need to engage in it more and more. Bit of ethics, bit of epistemics, and you're on your way, son. There you go. Vegan related question: how would you see it as unethical for those folks to have well cared for chickens in their backyard and use as a source for eggs? It's better than some alternatives, but would you see it as ultimately but wouldn't you see it as it's better than some alternatives, but take it you wouldn't see it as ultimately acceptable? I just think that if individuals are buying chickens, if people are buying chickens, then we need an industry to produce chickens. And since the only chickens that produce eggs are female, the chickens in the backyard are the result of 50% of the males being killed. So they've essentially birthed, let's say it was 100 chickens, only 50 of them survived because most of them are going to be, half of them are going to be male. And then they get macerated or put in a black bag or something or gassed. And at birth, just as soon as they're born, murdered. And then they use the chicken until it's spent. And then do they keep the chicken as a pet? Or do they send it to slaughter? So, and then there's also the questions of even if it was a rescue chicken, a lot of these chickens produce more eggs. They produce more eggs when you take them. So chickens have to abandon their eggs, otherwise they'll actually produce another one or something. It's weird. So they start so the more you take their eggs, the more eggs that they produce. And then the egg then it starts to deplete, also because they produce so many, it depletes the calcium in their body. So you're supposed to either feed them back the eggs or other calcium rich sources. Now let's say it abandoned its eggs It's got a high calcium diet. You're going to keep it as a pet afterwards. It's never gonna, like, after it's spent, you're always gonna have it in your back garden. It's you love it as an animal, as a friend, as a companion, and um, maybe it even doesn't even like the eggs or whatever, doesn't want to eat them, and it's got a calcium rich diet, and its bones are okay, and it's getting regular checks from the vet and stuff. Yeah, like, I don't really care if you eat the egg then. But obviously consider obviously it's about considering the chicken. Do you think that a major problem with Vosh could be that he doesn't have a grounded moral system, and so his political beliefs are necessarily disjointed? Absolutely. I think that his issue, the issue with Vosh is the lack of ethics in his takes. If he had a stronger ethical foundation, then he'd have something to appeal to correct his politics. So you're like, well, wait a minute. Is this behavior appropriate? Is it going to lead to better circumstances? Or is this politics self-justifying? And then this is where you get like the kind of like vanguardism and stuff that happens in some political philosophers, or philosophers who argue that, for something at all costs, and politics, like a political outcome at all costs, and not really considering that the political outcome has ethical purport, And so yeah, I think that a lot of Vosh's bad takes are to do with his lack of ethics, like ethical foundations. What's the best Jumpstar ringtone? I don't even know what that is. The only ringtone I know is Crazy Frog Man. That's the me and a couple of friends basically bullied the last of the gang to become vegan. Was it ethical? Probably not. You can't force moral progress, but hopefully actually it's more satirical and he actually understands it and has decided to go vegan. Hey, I recently decided to try investing. I don't want to invest traditional firms like Amazon, so a little over a month ago I bought 500 Bitcoin and have 2,000 now. Anyway, thoughts on cryptocurrency? Well, honestly, Dynamic, I'm happy for you and everyone. I want everyone to know I'm not going to be giving any financial advice right now because I'm not qualified to do so. Please do not take this as financial advice. I think that if that's what you want to do, it's a bit of a gamble in all cases with the market. But yeah, if that's what you want to do, don't bet more than you only bet that which you're able to lose and absorb the loss and be happy with it going to zero and be like, right, well, it didn't work out. Never go and put money into something when you need it. That's the only thing I'd say. But thoughts on cryptocurrencies? I think that Bitcoin's really interesting. Actually, one of my friends did his degree thesis on cryptocurrencies 6 years ago, and he had some really interesting stuff to talk about it. So yeah, I think cryptocurrencies. I might do a video on the philosophical foundation of Bitcoin because of it being a decentralized currency. I think that it's so yeah, so it's interesting. Did you enjoy the city life of Newcastle when you studied here? Studied there? Northumbria student here, lol. Yeah. I mean, I lived at home, so it makes a difference. But obviously I love Newcastle in general. Thanks, John Doe. I know the subs have exploded, man. 9,000 subs. What is going on? Even the viewership, man. There's 180 people watching this. Mental. No, 197. Absolutely crazy. Thank you all for being here. It really means a lot. It's nice to see people actually taking time out the day to listen to me go on about this sort of stuff. And thank you guys. It really does make a difference. Really cool. Thoughts on more abstract Marxist French thinkers? I don't know, man. I need to read more of them, to be entirely honest with you, before I can really make a solid comparison with the analytical Marxists. What I think of Course God, I think I need to really read her more because I know Marty's reading a book on animal rights, Is it like, oh, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. But I really need to read Coast Guard. What are the good reasons for going for a PhD in philosophy? Honestly, do it if you want to teach, or for whatever reason you need the qualification. If you're not going to use it, then don't necessarily get yourself into that debt. Um, it's interesting. It'll help better your thinking. You'll progress further than you thought you would from BA to masters. It'll probably increase your thought a lot. Same thing happens. To be honest, the same thing happens to me every year. Like I feel like my philosophy knowledge grows and grows, and I realize that every year I've been ignorant about something or other. So, yeah. And my views on abortion. I'm a sentientist. Basically, abortion's acceptable to the point of sentience. It comes with a moral hazard, and so I think that the way in which we do abortions should represent the interests of the mother, and also the making sure that it is as successful as possible, so that there is the minimized risk of like a failed abortion and issues happening with the child, because it would be the child then as well that would be born and so on. And then even in terms of fetuses, I think once a fetus is sentient, then it's ethically considerable. And I think that pro-choice people who try to argue that it's moral to abort a child until like 30 weeks, or some people say until the day before. Someone trying to make the case it's even the day before it's born. Like, no, you just need to look at yourself in the mirror, please. I know you talk about the bodily autonomy of the mother, but then like assuming it was like out of a consensual relationship or something, like a consensual like sexual encounter, then the bodily of the autonomy of the mother is what led to the consequences of the fetus, and so it would be and you would be trespassing upon the subjectivity of the fetus itself, and you'd also be asking something of the doctor as well. So no, I think that past the point of sentience, and then unless there is a medical issue or the well-being of the mother is like at great odds, so like the rule of double effect would take hold, I don't think that abortion would be justified. So I'm not pro-choice. I'm not really pro-life. I'm a sentientist, as you would expect from a vegan, really. Yeah, friendly reminder that Vorsh said that child porn consumption isn't worse than buying a t-shirt. Yeah, he really needs to look at his ethics. It's just bad. I would happily help him, to be entirely honest with you. I'd really help him, but like, he's just that, yeah. And what can you say? I mean, what can you even say to that? I don't know why that didn't go off. Ergo Strix is super chatting $10. Thank you for your donation, by the way, very much. Thank you very much. Do you believe that your objective ethics are correct while other moral realists are incorrect? Or do I find the others correct as well? I think there is a lot of correct moral realists. I think I disagree with a lot of the non-naturalists, but there's a lot of overlap with a lot of moral realists. So I agree with like McIntyre. I probably agree with a lot of Thomists, as a Hegelian as well. I think that would disagree on like certain aspects of moral realism and metaphysics more. Like we'll maybe disagree on like existentialism, and the existentialist takes in metaphysics, and they may argue for more like essence and stuff like that. But like most moral realists are probably coming from a very similar position to me these days. Or at least a lot of them are. But thank you very much for your donation. Some I disagree with. I mean, that's just it. Like, like I think if you've like so someone was arguing that there were like morals were real from a Platonic sense but couldn't instantiate it. I think that was Christopher Culp was doing that in his book Known Moral Truth, and I disagreed with his conclusions. But he had good arguments against, or at least he showed why the arguments, like some of the arguments against moral realism were wanting. Um, I suppose Bitcoin could be unethical because of terrible impact on the environment. That's from like the mining, isn't it? Like, because it like takes so much energy now to mine like so much Bitcoin. So as the price goes up, it makes it more economical to mine the Bitcoin. So yeah, probably that's probably a very big downside of it. Yeah. Wonder what will happen to Bitcoin when quantum computers become a thing, man. Like, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen to Bitcoin when when like quantum computers like like imagine overnight you can do what like 100 qubits? Is it qubits? Yeah, it's qubits, isn't it? Like 100 like trillion processes or something, like well like bits of information in like a second or something, or like a minute or something. I remember reading like a hypothetical quantum computer. Like I was doing this at like A-level physics, like talking about it, and the like it can brick like the average computer at the time when I was reading that article was could brick like what was it like is it brick wall? Yeah, I think it's brick wall, isn't it? Brick wall a bank. So like basically just run through process like a normal standard process, not really like a virus or anything like analytic like or algorithmic that would shorten the time in which it would get through a bank security. So if it was to brick wall, I think that's the word, a bank, it would take 10,000 years for the average computer to break the bank, break the bank's security. If it was a quantum computer, it would take 10 minutes. So the processing capacity of a quantum computer versus a regular computer these days is astronomical. And so I think like Bitcoin could just be getting like I just imagine I would buy a quantum computer to mine Bitcoin. like, like I don't know, man. It'd be crazy. I don't know. It interests us. 6 times the world's total energy output and power of Bitcoin performing just our last debit transactions. Oh my god, really? Oh god. That's ridiculous, man. Thank you very much. Missable Mercy. I really appreciate it. I will try to keep expressing my opinions. Thanks, man. Keep expressing your subjectivity. That's exactly right, man. Already answered a question or two from me. So just sending a few books for the cause. Keep on rocking in the free world. Thank you very much. I can't say your name, man. That's why I haven't said it so many times. Mr. the Phony Pope. I think I've said that right. Thank you for your donation. Really appreciate it. What if a woman takes a drug which suspends the sentience of the fetus and then kills it, or would it be fine to kill an insentient newborn who would be sentient in 5 minutes? Like, yeah, I mean, if it's not sentient, then it's not necessarily wrong in and of itself. It would be the same as a potato, just shaped like a human. Really, there's no actual. Well, I mean, like there is the societal ramifications actually, and the virtue ethical ones. Like, why are people killing, essentially human-looking things, and like is this sadism and stuff? They're propagating negative desires, which ultimately could impact others. So yeah, that would be like the only real issues with that. And then obviously if they suspended the sentience. And then killed it, then I don't really think that it's necessarily any different. I think that would actually be a good thing if we could stop the fetal development, so that we could prevent, so that the abortion like clinics could maintain like, all right, so we're not going to be able to get your abortion before sentience, but we can suspend fetal development so that it will never reach sentience and then abort it. I think that would be probably really wise. Hello, Siegfried Supreme. How you doing? Do you know when I'm going to drop the CS and RR video? Well, it's already on Patreon, actually. So any patrons who are interested in seeing me talk to Cosmic Skeptic and Rationality Rules on veganism, name the trait, moral realism, and really it was like Cartesian, like Descartes. It went like quite a funny direction. We didn't talk very much about veganism, but yeah, that's on Patreon right now. If any of the patrons want to see it, check it out. Hello, Perspective Philosophy. I really like your videos. I saw your take on the inspiring philosophy debate about God. From what I understand, you accept objective idealism as a Hegelian. My question is to you, how did Hegel justify objective idealism instead of subjective idealism? Like, how would you formalize that as an argument? And that disappeared. So how does Hegel formalize objective idealism as an argument? I'm trying to remember like how he kind of goes like from the... So Hegel basically understands that metaphysically divesting determinate objects is only possible between individuals in terms of negation. You need multiple minds in order for negation to properly function. And so to have a determinate object, you need individuals actually having a dialogue and a discourse in order to understand reality. And so he says that the way in which we can move from the immanent experience to an understanding of a determinate experience for which we can have knowledge claims is through language. Well, it doesn't say language, but through cooperation, through dialogue, through the dialectic, in fact, which allows thinking to understand itself. And so the subjective is only capable of understanding itself in terms of objective means. So he would take like self-consciousness and self-awareness, as part at least self-knowledge, to be objective, to be what was it? At least intersubjective. And so when we're talking about metaphysically understanding reality in terms of an objective standard, he would say that it's in relation to that which is that exists between the judgment of multiple parties, and so like he believes that the immanent will one day become synthesized essentially with the determinate experience in the dialogue, and so we would eventually experience reality as it is through our understanding of language, which would be in our perceptions. So like we would basically condition ourselves to no longer need to like investigate reality because we've investigated it to its nth degree. And so when we look at an object, we would have an understanding of reality as it is and understand everything that we need to know about it. And at that point, he like essentially it's almost, I would argue, a form of like humanism, but that's like the absolute spirit anyway. Absolute spirit is the spirit which exists between us, which allows us to understand reality. And so this is like his argument for objective idealism. Now there is the absolute spirit is the formulation between individuals which allows us to understand reality and allows thinking to understand itself. And so even from a subjective idealist position, he would say that it's the objective applied to the subjective. And so it's like a universal understanding of reality. And so he actually argues as well that there is only universals from what I remember. And I think he doesn't actually allow for particulars. So yeah. I hope that answers your question, man. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you like the shirt. I did not like the book After Virtue. Well, no. He said, I think McIntyre didn't say that no private language was a misreading of Wittgenstein. I think he said that saying that it was reductio ad absurdum and that the private language was absurd may have been a misreading. But that it was, I think that it's not saying that it could not necessarily function at all in any circumstance, but rather that it would be, I think that it would be implausible or like near impossible, from what I understand from McIntyre, if I remember on After Virtue correctly. He just dismissed it being reductio ad absurdum, that he had shown it to be impossible. He would say that he'd shown it to be highly improbable that an individual could do it, like be able to separate their interpretation from and in terms of, and overcome like the kind of free gauge problem. Magnus Nicholson, Nicholsian. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Magnus. I hope I am. What are your thoughts on Philosophy Tube? Heard a philosophy professor has been debunking his videos. I actually watched one of them. I was gonna reach out to the professor. It was like a bit. I was like, "Whoo!" I hope no professor starts like watching my videos and like, "This is just all wrong." Like, can't believe he thinks he knows Hegel. But yeah, like I think he's like Philosophy Tube is you know he's a layman philosopher in the sense that he's making philosophy for the layperson. Excuse me. I don't think he's got the most the best content out there. Or she's got the best content out there now. Sorry. My mistake. Sorry, Abigail. But she's she's got some good stuff. I'm trying to think of something that I thought was really good. I can't think of anything that I thought was really good or really bad. But I don't watch that much of her content, so I thought that the guy's video showing why our video on Kant was bad was a solid one. But yeah, other than that, yeah, really, I haven't really got I think and I think that our views on whether we should punch Nazis are really bad, really bad. We should not punch Nazis. That's a terrible idea. Do I like BreadTube? I do and I don't. There's some BreadTubers that I really like, and there's some that I don't like, and I don't watch it religiously. So yeah. Do you think that Rawls' veil of ignorance is just a liberal thinking justifying liberal conclusions? Surely humans share underlying values. I actually do think that's Rawls' veil of ignorance, liberal thinking justifying liberal conclusions. That was Alistair McIntyre's take. So yeah. What the fuck did I just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 31 subs out of in a second, apparently. Thank you. I have no idea what done that, but absolutely class. What? Cool. I think that Rawls is justifying his liberal conclusions with liberal thinking. I think Nozick and McIntyre showed that to be the case. And I think that we do have underlying values, but then I don't think that we can approach it from a veil of ignorance. We're only ignorant of certain features for Rawls as well, which is so strange, if I'm honest. But happy 100th birthday, John Rawls. I bet you all didn't know that. It's his 100th birthday today. I imagine the guy who donated, Max Conrad, I think you probably knew. 100th birthday for John Rawls, and I think the 50th anniversary for his A Theory of Justice. So yeah. And can I say, definitely read A Theory of Justice. Mightn't be my political take, but honestly, I think that even reading A Theory of Justice, he makes some great points. And he takes a very consequentialist view of how we should approach political economy. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check it out. Check out A Theory of Justice. And thank you for those who follow on Twitter and Twitch as well. Really appreciate it. Thoughts on Hume's is-ord gap? I think that it's not actually a problem necessarily, but I think Hume's is-ord gap is actually brilliant for showing people who can't instantiate their ethics that their ethics is uninstantiated. So people who actually genuinely make the quote-unquote naturalistic fallacy, the people who appeal to nature because it's essentially just something natural. They think natural is good, who conflate that and make it synonymous, and those people who just assert a given thing is good without any real understanding of the metaphysical foundations from which they are asserting it. Hume is brilliant at ripping that apart, regardless of your take on whether it's actually a law or the guillotine that we must all stick our heads in. I think McIntyre, I think, and many people who've wrote on supervenience showed why it's not necessarily so all-encompassing as we used to think it is. So yeah. Okay, I understand. Thanks so much. I love your work. you will be a content millionaire in no time. Oh, thanks, man. I hope that like it's not necessarily about it's more about growing the channel and then getting veganism out there as well. Probably the next video is probably going to be on veganism and socialism. Why socialists should be vegan and why vegans should be socialists. I was going to do it this time, but I had so many tech issues. I was like, I need to make this just as simple as possible so I can actually get this sorted. Sorry, the stream leads to the. The stream will lead to the power, and that leads to morals. You can't have morals without power, and at the. I don't know what you're saying, Indie Prime, necessarily. Keep up the good work, Lewis. Fight COVID, go vegan. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Julian Lawrence. People really don't consider the impact of going vegan in terms of zoological disease risk. Zoonotic disease risk is unbelievably. An unbelievable existential threat to humanity. We have gotten off so lucky with COVID. H1N1 and H5N1 had mortality rates much higher than what we have with COVID. And we're just lucky that they weren't as virulent and that they didn't spread among the population. But these things can spread. These things can become more deadly. And this with COVID, although it's crippled our economies, it's put people out of jobs, it's killed millions of people globally. Nothing. Absolutely nothing compared to what will come. And I say will come. I don't think it's like a if, it's a when. In terms of the likelihood of a virus or a bacteria, virus really, of a virus becoming so virulent and deadly that it could cripple and decimate the human population to a really unbelievable, horrific, catastrophic end. And so, yeah, I think that we really should just it's just rational to go vegan just for that alone. Like even if we don't say vegan, plant-based for that alone. Like it's unbelievable. Philosophy Tube is theatre, not philosophy. Yeah, kind of, but she's got great theatre though. ContraPoint's even better theatre, I would argue. Like, but she knows, I think, even more philosophy. I think ContraPoints is like if I'm honest, like Philosophy Tube and ContraPoints are really close together, and I think that philosophy, ContraPoints is just the gold standard. I was trying to get her to talk about veganism. I actually donated to one of her streams, and I was like, talk to me about veganism. She was like, I don't talk to random people, but I support you. Like, damn. Natalie, please. Natalie, why would you consume animal products with your belief system like this? Do you think I should make a video calling out ContraPoints and like why she should be vegan? Just make a video like why ContraPoints should be vegan and just like go through all of our like takes in the past and just show like why every one of them leads to like veganism. Have I checked out the podcast, Philosophize This Podcast? No, I haven't, but I should probably check it out. Me and the girlfriend were looking for a good podcast to listen to, actually. Rawls is okay. I wouldn't call myself like his biggest fan, but Rawls is okay. I think that especially when I was reading Rawls, I was more sympathetic to him in university than I am now. Because I read Nozick, because I didn't like Nozick's critique of Rawls at first, but then I read Nozick and I was like, actually, this is way better than I thought it was, and I was more objective. I was like, I can't just not like his conclusions. But yeah. I have a very serious question. What's your thoughts on Batman being a billionaire philanthropist by day and acting in a forceful extra legal capacity by night? Okay, well, one, I think Batman has some really great points, and then he's got some really shitty ones. So I think Zizek was kind of right in saying that Christopher Nolan's Batman is pretty much a liberal, like a liberal, like an instantiation of liberal philosophy. And I think that he's kind of like the way in which he engages in like Batman being a billionaire philanthropist and stuff. I think is an issue Really, not for like the story, because I think it is just a story. Remember, it's a comic, guys. Like, it's not a big deal. But like, as in like a genuine hero, the amount of good that he could do with that wealth would probably be much greater degree if he actually just gave it away and stuff. I think that his vigilantism is an issue and not an issue at the same time. Depends on which Batman comics you read, and if you watch the Snyder film, like Batman versus Superman, like actually, is that yeah? Was that Snyder as well, wasn't it? No. Who is it? Who's it? Yeah, actually, yeah, Snyder. Yeah. I was talking to I was talking to Doomer about that, and yeah, it's like it's just bad. It's a bad Batman, really bad take on Batman. He's killing people and stuff. Excuse me, but Batman really is the hand of the institutions. He's like making up for the gaps in the police force, because the institution itself is no longer capable of holding up its mandate in Gotham City, and so he steps in and basically hands the criminals over to the police, and I think that's pretty cool. I think that he's means. I think that the fact that he's not institutional himself is an issue until he's like part of the Justice League and they're kind of institutional, and but I love the Sherlock Holmes aspect of him as well. But I think there is an issue with him being like a billionaire philanthropist, in terms of ethics. Like, yeah, it seems that it's like a very it is a liberal instantiation of what is good. Unfortunately, but at the same time, I think his ethics are like damn near close to a Kantian or a Hegelian, because of the rule based structure, his reliance upon institutions, and faith in institutions, and I think there is an issue with heroic morality as a whole, which may underpin an issue with heroes and not just Batman, which I think Hegel points out. So yeah, thanks for your question, man. PP, I'm a layperson trying to learn more about ethics. How can you best ask questions about the validity of beliefs? Excuse me. Oh god, that disappeared. I'm really sorry. I have no idea what you were about to say. I was trying to read it, but I can't read in me head very well. It's possible to build an ethical system without the foundation of a subjective. For example, Popper's non-foundation epistemology applied to morals. I don't think so, man. If I'm honest, Andy, I don't think so. I don't know how to respond to that necessarily. Yeah. Reddish. I can't say your name. Redashitaka. Am I saying that right? I hope I'm saying that right. I am open for interviews and stuff. Just if you go to my YouTube, my about section, it's I'll just I'm just typing into Twitch chat. That should say perspectivephilosophy2@gmail.com for business inquiries. Just hit us up there. Check out my Discord as well, and just hit us up there as well. I have some other interviews that people have asked us to do and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely need to do that. I'm also doing a talk, I think, for the Vegan Society in Trinity College Dublin. So that's pretty cool. I haven't read very much Jung. I remember reading like an essay that just started with like, we don't know how the material like forms the mind, but we must assume it does, or something like that. Basically saying like we must assume that the mind is material in origin, and it's just like, why must we assume this Jung? I don't know.
Donald Anderson donated £5. How do we reconcile a functional good given by nature and acting in the interest of wild carnivorous predators? Also almost 10k subs, thumbs way up.
Oh, thanks very much, Donald. It's really appreciated. The functional concept of good given by nature and acting in the interest of wild carnivorous predators. Look, I would say that like one thing that we need to separate in terms of the functional concept of nature is not to make it naturalism as determined, like Darwinian naturalism. Like it's not about natural selection, about the propagation of the species and the expressions of genes. That's not what ethics is about. It's about the value in nature. So we need to make that carved right clear. We don't necessarily try to make as many people in the world because it's ultimately good for the genes, the gene pool, or like gene expression or whatever. We don't try and like we don't commit acts of like eugenics or something, or we don't try and maximize the likelihood of like people like surviving and stuff like that. Despite not surviving like people like being able to like reproduce or something, despite like let's say the consent of other individuals or like whatever it may be. We're engaging around the around the value in nature. It's not just about the it's not just simply about the concept that exists in it's not about the concept of nature, it's about the value in nature. I think that's a real big distinction that we need to make. So when we talk about carnivorous predators, the interest of carnivorous predators is a confliction of value in nature. There's a value that exists in predators and their experiences, and then the prey's experiences. And I think ultimately, although I'd say that we're not really obligated to intervene in terms of a negative sense, like we're not the ones causing it, we're not the ones trespassing, but ultimately, if we could stop that harm, and we could, if we could stop that harm, and we could genetically modify these creatures to, let's say, not be born anymore and so on, then yeah, that's probably what I would say we should do. So long as and if we could balance the ecosystems and stuff like that without having to kill animals through gene drives, that's probably what I would do. I would say check out my conversation with David Pierce on that. I think that's where I would say I got most of these positions from, and I think gene drives are probably the best way to go about this. But our understanding of how to use them is a bit I don't know. I don't know enough biology for that. Speaking of which, hi, I'm a biologist, considering doing a master's in philosophy. Can I pull this off? I read a lot of philosophy, but don't have many credits. Honestly, I don't see why you necessarily couldn't. You might be able to do it. It depends on how much philosophy you genuinely know. So yeah, I'm gonna shoot off in a second, guys. By the way, I'm only staying for the next 8 more minutes. By the way, so if you've got a question, I'll ask it now. But it depends on how much philosophy you know. You very well may be able to do it, but I'm not going to tell you can do it because it depends on how much you know. It's very contextual. So I'm sorry, I can't really give you too much on that. But just because you do biology doesn't mean you're not necessarily capable of it. Yeah, it really does depend. Neon Egypt has super chat of $5. Have you read The Tao of Physics by the physicist physicist Capra? Thoughts on Taoism in general? Also, any possibility of a debate with Matt Dillahunty? I don't actually know that much on Taoism, if I'm honest. I definitely need to read more on Taoism. If you've got any recommendations for Taoism, that'd be actually really great. Taoist philosophy. I actually don't know that much on Taoism, so I can't really comment too much on that. And I haven't read the Tao of Physics. That sounds really cool. Tao of Physics. I'll write that down. Please respond. I'm really lost and don't know people who study philosophy. Also a big fan. So yeah, like honestly, if I'm honest, Tato Low, genuinely, I would say that one of the biggest things is learning how to write a philosophy essay. Would probably be your biggest place to start. Make sure that you can write a philosophy essay that's strong and capable of being understood. Ask if you could. You can't really do that. Like I think you might be able to do it. Like you've got a strong research background and you're willing to put the work in, yeah. But like obviously remember that you're going to be more disadvantaged than if you had have done philosophy at BA. You're not going to be used to the skill set. Yeah, just I'm not going to say to do it, but like I think you might be capable of doing it. So be careful. That's what I'd say. Do I speak any other languages? I don't. I keep meaning to learn one. I want to learn German and ancient Greek for work, really. Only 83 likes and 147 watching. Go like. Absolutely. Guys, come on. My God. Oh, God. You don't like it for. Must hate me. Thoughts on Alan Watts? I love Alan Watts. I love listening to that man's voice when I'm feeling sleepy. And I think he makes some really interesting points. I don't agree with these, like some of his takes, but yeah, I love Alan Watts. Okay. I think I'm going to call it here now, guys. Tao Te Ching recommendation. Sweet, man. Most important question of the night. Which club do I support? I don't really, like, I'm not going to lie. I don't really watch football. I'm like a Geordie that doesn't watch football. If I was asked like who I would support, it would be Newcastle out of family or obligation more than anything else because my family support Newcastle and I think that's just the way I'm supposed to go. Also, yeah, that's about it. Solidarity, comrade. Thanks, man. Never answered your question. Was it like a super chat or scrolling through? No. Sorry, Cosmo. Ex-Vosh fan here. Genuinely confused by your takes on revolution. Wasn't Marx a revolutionary? Yeah, he was a revolutionary. I disagree with Marx. I think Marx was wrong. I think Hegel was right. So I'm like a left. I'm actually like, you could call us a pre-Marxist socialist if you wanted to go that way. I'm a left Hegelian. I haven't seen the recent anti-Tory, the Tory anti-woke campaign in universities. I gotta check that shit out. Thanks for the heads up, man. $5 from Chippo estimates put the number of lives saved by Bill Gates at 122 million. As a socialist, any thoughts on regards to privatization of charity in that regard? Okay, so one, I think that although Bill Gates might have done some really nice things with philanthropy, I think that the wealth that he has to be able to commit philanthropy shouldn't be his. I think that we should engage, like it should be democratic. And I think some of the harm he's caused as well, like people forget that he's also like created like meat facilities and stuff like that, which is ultimately, I would argue, unethical. And these are the issues that could arise from, from overly exaggerated moral authority. So he's been given too much authority because of his power within the market. And so I would say that if they, and also it doesn't undo the harm that Microsoft has caused to the world, which is, considerable. I think that it's really great that he's, I think it's really great that he's a philanthropist, and I would recommend all billionaires go down that route. But even better, pay your workers what they're owed. Don't pay them a wage, pay them the value that they produce. And so yeah, absolutely. I hope you all have a lovely night. Thank you to the patrons on Patreon for supporting this stream, Ethan and Jeezy. Thank you so much. I think there was actually, 1 second. Actually, I'll just check that. So I'm pretty sure I've got a new patron. I think it was. Quickly check. It's like Lazarus, Jeezy, and Ethan. Thank you very much for supporting this content. It really means a lot. And obviously, if anyone is interested check out the new video I posted on Patreon where I talk rationality rules and Cosmic Skeptic. Yeah, tell us what you think. It's over a year old as a discussion. Never been seen before, but over a year old. So I look much more handsome. I'm in much better shape. So you should definitely check that out. So I hope you all have a lovely night. And as always, try to gain some perspective.